Welcome back to Straight Facts on Tuesday. I'm Dan. I'm joined by the brilliant Dan Potts and the wonderful LB. How are you, gentlemen?
Yeah,
all
good, man.
All good, very good. As I just said off air, chat, blame me for the lateness. Yeah, I mean, I was out there putting out fires. You know what I mean, saving old women from a burning down house. You know what I mean, it was a madness. So my apologies,
Big congratulations to LB. He has just saved the house from burning down with his bare hands. Bare hands.
It's mad. It's mad. It's crazy. You know what I mean? But that's what I'm like, guys. You know what I mean? I see someone in distress. Boom, I'm there to help. I mean, I'm a good guy, you know.
Oh, mate, I agree. It's good to see. There's very few heroes left in the world. Very few heroes left in the world. So it's good to have you on. Loads to talk about on the show today. Man United looking to sell most of their squad. We're looking ahead at the Champions League games tonight. Jorginho New Deal. Rúben Amorim to Chelsea appears to be on. And of course, we'll be getting Potsy's and LB's take on the weekend's football, the North London derby, and a little bit more. Of course, hit like buttons if you haven't done so already, and make sure you've subscribed to the channel. I wanted to start off with United. We were sort of talking in the group chat earlier about what to speak about, and you boys sort of mentioned it, but there are a lot of reports out there that suggest that barring Garnacho, Mainu, and Højlund, basically everybody's for sale.
Yeah, I seen that article yesterday, man, and I think Onana will probably get another year to prove himself, especially because he's just been bought. But yeah, I think everyone else really. I mean, you're the United fan. I mean, I look through your squad, Terry. We might have spoke about this before. I'm not sure, but like maybe bar them players. There's very few players really that I'd look at taking at say. Even the ones that some United fans want to keep, it becomes a very toxic debate. I've seen you and Staffy, for example, have pretty mad debates on Bruno Fernandes, and that's very typical of the Man United fan base. You've got the Luke Shaw argument again. You know, two sides of the coin. United fans very passionate in debating whether or not he's good enough, whether or not he's available enough to be at United. And then you start talking about Maguire, and even though he's done well recently, is he good enough to be at the team? You talk about Rashford, and so it comes as no surprise. Listen, I've said for a while, these new owners, Jim Ratcliffe and his Ineos guys, I don't think that they're messing around, man. I really, really don't. I don't think they're no mugs. Look at the people that they're hiring. Yeah, look at all the directors they're getting. They're getting the best that they can possibly get. They're not going to get all these people. They're not going to spend all this money on all these directors, potentially ruining relationships with other clubs, which is very important these days with all the votes that goes on. You need to have good relationships with other clubs. They're not going to do all that and jeopardize these relationships, spend all this money just for the playing team, the staff, and the coach, just to be like, whatever. They're going to be ruthless, man. They're going to be. Now the question is, how do they give the team time? Do they say, right, we come in mid-season, we're going to give the players, we're going to give the manager 1 full year under our ownership, i.e. next year, and then we're going to come in. Or they're just going to be like, no, we've seen enough. You know, Jim Ratcliffe, I've been watching United for 5 years, he might be saying, or however long. I know what's going on. I know the players. I don't need to see another year. Are they going to be ruthless? So it's no surprise to me. Like I said, I'd throw Onana in there just because it's his first season, and I think you've got to give him 1 more year. But I think the article's probably correct, and I think the way you introduced it is right. I think United will probably be open to offers for every player in that squad, bar 4 or 5. And most of them are the younger players or the ones that have just been transferred in for big money, i.e. Højlund, i.e. Onana. But they're not going to be given. They're not going to be given year after year after year after year. United over the last 10 years have become a soft football club in the way that they treat their players. They're not ruthless anymore. They used to be ruthless under Sir Alex Ferguson. They used to be ruthless. The manager fell out with a player, or the manager didn't like a player, they were gone. New one would come in. United players these days, they get chance after chance after chance. Oh, he didn't track back. He didn't work hard. I mean, he was lazy. He cost us a goal. Lack of quality. We'll give him another game. We'll give him another season. He's young. Is this? Is that? I think times are about to change, and that doesn't mean it's going to result in instant success. As I've told you before, Terry, in my opinion, I think you're probably 2 or 3 seasons away from challenging at the top. But I think you're about to see a fundamental shift in the way that this club's about to be run. And I think it'll be for benefit for United fans, because I think you're going to get rid of that. I think you're going to go back to the ruthless approach, which you have to be. Look at Arteta. Look at Arteta at Arsenal. How ruthless was he with Aubameyang? Get out, mate. You know, how ruthless was he with Ramsdale? Now, we all questioned it. We all questioned those decisions. I questioned the Ramsdale one. I questioned the Aubameyang one. And I'm sure when some of the United players were sold under Fergie, you probably questioned it and went, why is he selling him? But in the end, it was the right decision. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. I just think personally that it's the correct thing to do. And at the end of the day, the one thing I'd say is anyone who is open to be sold, it's because they've let your club down. So as a United fan, you shouldn't feel sad when one of these guys leaves. If they leave, it's because they've let your club down on more than one occasion. That's what I would say about it.
Yeah, do you know what? From a United perspective, this is what I would where it not where it's going to go wrong, but where the divide will happen with Man United fans is that I still think a lot of Man United fans are in their feelings, in the sense of if I don't get what I want, I'm going to throw my toys out the pram before giving the new regime time to cook. So from my perspective, I've heard Luke Shaw's name come up. I think we need to look beyond Luke Shaw. But there's loads of positions we have to fill this year. Just because he survives the first summer doesn't mean he's part of the long-term plans. They'll talk about him like he's part of the long-term plans, because imagine what you do to a dressing room by saying, yeah, we're keeping Luke Shaw, but only because there's too many other players to sell, but we're getting rid of him next year. You can't say things like that to create a good working environment, not just in football, in any walk of life. You know, letting somebody publicly know they're a dead man walking is ridiculous. I think that early. So Man United fans have got to learn to be patient here. You may not see the full picture straight away. You gave a great example with Sir Alex. There was absolute craziness when he got rid of Kanchelskis, Paul Ince, and Mark Hughes in the mid-90s. The media, lots of Man United fans said he was crazy. It's what coined the phrase, you'll win nothing with kids. And that went on to be the right decision, not just that same season, but for many, many years to come. Arteta, I know he hasn't won a major trophy yet, but was absolutely slammed, can't handle big players. All the same stuff that's being said about the new United board, lowering the wage bill, it's lowering the standards, you're not trying to actually improve us. All of that nonsense has now been debunked because you weren't lowering the standards, you were clearing out all the crap, whether it was ability, attitude, or both, to build a solid foundation to where you are now. Now the question is, can Arteta get you over the line? But I feel like that's a separate debate from the actions he took to get you into this position. So I'm barring Mainu, Garnacho, Højlund, I would probably throw Lisandro Martinez into that if he can get fit. I did a few weeks ago when I was angry say that I'd be happy for Bruno Fernandes to leave. I am starting to change my mind. I don't know about that one anymore. I feel like I know a lot of people say that he's not a good leader, and I respect that opinion, but I just feel he may be necessary for another year or two.
Would you be angry if they sold him, though, Terry?
No. And that's it. I've got a question mark over it. And everyone knows I rate Bruno Fernandes. I know he doesn't pass the eye test, but you've seen it in recent weeks, when he's played in his actual position, he delivers invariably in terms of creating those chances or scoring those goals. But barring those players I mentioned prior to that, Lisandro, Mainu, Garnacho, Højlund, I'm not adverse to any of the current regular first team squad being sold. And for me, it's a case of it all depends on who the manager is, what the style of football of which we want to play. Now, the club are never going to announce exactly what these things look like, because you have to keep these elements of what your club's trying to do private, because you have got rivals out there that want to try and stop you, right? So we have to put a little bit of faith in it. What Man United fans have got to get their heads around is the first people that have got to go are individuals that don't want to be here. That comes before the style or quality of player. The problem is with a lot of Man United fans, and this year a funny comment from Staffy that says the minute Terry and the club start listening more to me more, we'll become a better team. The issue that someone like a Staffy may have, and I say may because I don't want to put words in his mouth, is if, for instance, we keep a Maguire but get rid of a Varane, because Varane is better and better technically, it will be these owners don't know what they're doing. But Varane may not want to stay, where Maguire might want to fight for his place. And I think that when you're trying to rebuild a culture, you start off with people that may not be as good, but that want to be there. And then you start adding the quality over time. That, again, if you, in an ideal world, the players that you want to get rid of are also the worst quality players, and they're the ones that don't want to be here, and it's easier. But Man United fans have got to show some patience through the first couple of years of this genuine rebuild. I know there's Liverpool fans acting like they're having a rebuild, and none of them are having, Liverpool ain't having a rebuild. They're having a manager come in and they're buying 3 or 4 new players. They've already got a team challenging for a Premier League title. You don't need a goddamn rebuild. You need a bit of an evolution of your squad, maybe, but you don't need a club rebuild. Man United are knocking everything down aside from the academy. They're building a new training set, like the training center, stadium, everything's being done again. So, yeah, look, we just need to be patient. And yeah, I'm open, as I say, for pretty much anybody leaving for the right money. And I'm putting my faith in the CVs of the people that are coming in to run the club. I'm going to get behind them for a period of time. It doesn't mean I won't criticize individual decisions and say, not sure about that one, but I'm not going to marry myself to any opinion until I've personally given it some time to not even cook, to at least marinate. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what you think, Dan.
Yeah, what I think simple. The only thing I'd add on what LB has said is what Man United have got to realise is they're not going to get a lot of money for some of these players if they're all up for sale. So they're not really great anyway. So I don't think they'll be too devastated. They're not going to go and get 100 million for players like Maguire, Dalot, and Wan-Bissaka and players like that. But if you're going to have a clear out, you might want to have, I don't know, 20 players leave. But that is going to take some massive time if you're going to do that. And you're going to allow 20 players to leave for probably pennies, really, when you've spent a lot of money on them. So it's going to need some time. And you've already had to have a lot of patience at Manchester United. And I think the fan base now have to look at what Arsenal have done and say, whether we like that model or not, it's been 5 years and they still haven't won anything with it. So this could take a long time at Manchester United. Now, it might be that you go and win something like you did last year and you're okay with that. But in the realism of it, you want to be up there with Manchester City right as soon as possible. And I think that's going to take a long time for Manchester United. Now, the only good thing is you couldn't get any worse with your structure than it has been in the last decade, right? The structure's been a mess at Manchester United. The ownership don't care. I know people say they do. Look at how much money they've spent it on, how much money they've spent, but look what they've spent it on. They've neglected the club, in my opinion. Look at the stadium; it's falling down. It's literally let's start again. That's what's got to happen at Manchester United, and that's going to take time. Now, it depends what route you go down, Tel, and I've said this a few times. For me, it depends who your manager is going to be. If your manager is going to be someone who's going to go and start a project a little bit similar to Mikel Arteta, then you're going to have to look at it and go, right, that's going to potentially take 5 years. Look at what it's done with Arsenal. You're in a similar position to when Mikel Arteta took over, I suppose. You know, we had Aubameyang. You've got a kind of Rashford there. We had Ozil. You've kind of got Bruno there. There's players that are on way too much a week for what their actually quality is and their ability is. That's similar to us. We had players, if you remember, like Mustafi and Kolasinac that were on a ridiculous amount of money a week, you know, almost £100,000 a week they were collecting every week, and they were shocking. Yeah, trash. And Manchester United are in that position as well. There's massive egos at the football club that have won everything in football that aren't really ready to go and take the club forward, i.e. Varane and Casemiro. So there's quite a few similarities to where we were 5 years ago, if you look at it now. And that's taken us this long. You've got to decide if you're happy to go with that route, like Mikel Arteta, and give all the backing and all the money to him and let him shape the side as much as you want. Or you go and get a manager that's got a CV that can attract the players, because Man United can still attract players because they're an unbelievable football club and a massive football club, right? If they got an unbelievable manager in that could do that, then you've got both. And for me, there's nothing stopping in 2 seasons' time Manchester United at least challenging again if things go completely right. You've got to get the structure right and the manager appointment right, and then you've got to start looking at the playing staff, in my opinion. And it depends what Manchester United want. Do they want something that's going to take some time? And like you say, look at who wants to be there, who doesn't. Or do they want somebody to go, do you know what? I'm not waiting 5 years. We don't have to. We've got the money. The Glazers have spent enough money on trash before. Let's not spend it on trash anymore. And let's give it 3 windows. And I reckon we'll get top 4 easily. And then go again in the following season for the title. That's the 2 options you got.
Well, this is the thing. Even with this current squad, if we had a better team structure this year, we're coached better, had a better system, I think we make the top 4. We're not that far off it. We're 2 or 3 wins away from being right close to it. But we've looked awful all season. And that's with this squad. So if you improve the squad, more balance, have a set style of play that's good in possession and out of possession, we will challenge for the top 4 pretty quickly. I'm fairly within a season or two. And then it depends on who's actually challenging for that Premier League title, how many points are actually needed to get to that stage. But I think it's just something for me where, again, I'm relaxed about it. And Staffy said it in the comments as well. I'm relaxed about it. I'm not going to, if we sign a player in the summer that I don't particularly rate, I'll say I don't particularly rate the individual and be honest. But at the same time, there's a difference between that and throwing my toys out the pram. And I think we need to remain level-headed. What do you boys think the spending cap? Because Ineos and Man United have voted against it, and some of the reasons for that sort of stem from they believe it's going to slow down the rebuild. Interestingly, I think it's Aston Villa have also voted against it. Manchester City voted against it. But here are some of the stats according to the current trading accounts. Only Chelsea would be, ironically, they say they've got no financial issues. Only Chelsea would have to reduce their spending under the spending cap. City, pretty close to it. It only have about 8 million more they could sort of currently spend based on their average yearly expenditure. Man United, about 90 million more. Liverpool, about the same. But every other club actually would have quite a huge amount of money more they could theoretically spend if there's a spending cap, which I think they base it on 5 times the broadcast revenue of the lowest team in the league. But do you think this could be a hindrance, not just to Man United, but to other teams? Or do you think a spending cap for the Premier League is a good thing?
I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing at all. For United, not good, man. Not good, because obviously they need a full rebuild and they're already like close to the top. At least City are close to the top, but we've got a squad that can compete for the Premier League already and compete for the Champions League. Yeah, it's and apparently Jim Ratcliffe not happy with this at all, because this is difficult. And also you got another reason why. The rules previously to this, which was the squad cost ratio, which UEFA are using, it encourages owners to increase revenue. So it encourages owners, and this is what Jim Ratcliffe was going to do, is it encourages owners to build up the local area, get bars, get restaurants, to get fans to spend more money, to bring in more revenue, because the more revenue you have, the more money you can spend. Well, that's gone out the window now. That's gone out the window. You still need the revenue because it's still there, but it's now capped. It's now capped at around 518 million quid or whatever it is, or whatever the fee is going to be. It's not been agreed. So this is going to make it difficult for United. It certainly is. And you can see why United voted against it. You can see why City certainly voted against it. As for Chelsea, I think they're probably in a similar position as well, because they're actually looking like they would have breached the rules, and they're in disarray. So it's a bit of a madness, to be honest with you. I'm not entirely sure why they brought it in.
Well, this is LB thinks it's a conspiracy to stop City spending, when in reality, something needs to happen in football in terms of FFP.
Can I challenge that, Terry?
Of course you can.
Okay, so the original rules, which were voted in, which was the squad cost ratio, which the Premier League copied UEFA, City were third bottom. Then added in the cap now, and all of a sudden, we're second. We're second worst. We went from third bottom to second worst overnight because of this cap. Yeah, and in terms of in FFP, why? You've got a league which is thriving. We just had a 3-team title race until match day 35. Yeah, so the title races are cooking. One of the best title races we've had in a long, long time. You had Newcastle break into the top 4 last year. You've now got Aston Villa break into the top 4 next year, and they're looking to kick on. You've got Spurs, who lost one of the greatest strikers we've ever seen and are still up in there in 5th. I don't understand why so many people think that we desperately need this FFP. We had it. We had the squad cost ratio. That's exactly what UEFA used. The Premier League copied it. Everyone was like, okay. I still wasn't a massive fan because you know my views on it, but you can only spend a certain amount of your revenue. Cool, sustainability, whatever. I'll go with it. I'm still not a massive fan, but I'll go with it. And then all of a sudden they've gone, well, actually now we're going to cap it. So the clubs are now capped to spend. I just don't really get why.
I'm surprised that you care about this so much, LB, because this is going to sort Man City out personally. Like, you've got your squad, bro. Everyone else trying to catch up with you, and they can't now because of PSR, because of FFP, because of now this spending cap. If I'm Man City, I'll be chilling. I've got my squad. Let everyone catch up
Yeah,
with
but
us.
I just don't agree with it in the principle.
Yeah, but do you know what? Do you know? I get where you're coming from, Dan. But there's two things. There's how it impacts us internally, and then what it does on a European front. So if Real Madrid's and Bayern Munich's and Barcelona's don't have a spending cap, then as their revenues grow over time, they will be able to offer more wages than Premier League teams to the best players in the world.
And that is a worry. That is a worry.
Yeah, so they will be able to turn around and say, do you know what, Haaland? City, as it stands right with this cap, it doesn't matter if City increase their revenue by £1 billion. They won't be able to offer Haaland. They've got £8 million spare. They can't pay Haaland any more money. But say Real Madrid revenues increase by 200 million. They say, listen, Haaland, we want to give £100 million extra to you. City can do nothing now to compete with that offer. Equally, when it comes internally, is what I don't like about it is this. It's funny how City fans are now want to join the cartel clubs, right? But they're quote unquote. But my view is this: one thing about American sport that I find weird, considering how the sort of a capitalist society that America is the worst performing and run teams get the best picks in the draft. That has always felt backwards to me. I believe that success should equal reward, right? And when I used to work in a phone shop, I started managing it, and I created a system where the person that sold the most phones, who was top of the list, every time a new customer came in, they got first dibs on that customer unless they were with somebody else. So the better you performed, the more customers you got to see than the lower performers. Some people hated it. Oh, but that's not fair. How can I catch up? Make sure you close your deals when they come in. We used to do things where we used to do street fighting, get out and talk to people walking past and try and encourage them to come in. Do whatever you got to do to bring people into the shop to sell them a phone. But I believe in rewarding success. So if, for instance, and let's take it away from our clubs, let's say Aston Villa now, who are currently 226 million below the threshold, but their turnovers are lower. Next year, they win the Prem, then they retain it, then they win the Champions League. They go strength to strength to strength. They keep increasing their revenue, but there will come a point where they can't spend anymore. And it's a case of, hang on a minute. So you're now being, to a degree, you're almost being punished for being successful. It's teams below you can spend more and have got more room to improve, but you kind of hit a ceiling and you sort of stay there. There's an element of that just, and maybe I see it this way. Man United are not at the top right now because we've been awful for a decade, but maybe it's because my team has been. Maybe for a team that's more middle of the road, you see it as, this could be an opportunity to get to the next level. So I don't feel like I feel like it takes away from success. I think success should be rewarded with more income. More income means you can pay the better players more money to keep them, so you can keep trying to be successful. My biggest fear, though, is what it does with our European counterparts, who will be rubbing their hands together at this. They really will be rubbing their hands together.
Well, another thing that I've got to say, is that for the last, whenever we speak about FFP, and again, we always have disagreements, me and you, Terry, because I've always said I don't believe it's about creating clubs that are sustainable. I've never bought into that. Terry, you have, and we've had debates about it in the past, right? With this, again, go back to the squad cost ratio, where you had to have your spend under 80% of your revenue. Again, I wasn't massively for it, but it backed up your argument that you can't spend more than your revenue, and it's to make a sustainability thing. Adding this anchor in, that just completely disproves any point about sustainability, because you are now limiting what people are spending. And I seen a couple of comments in the chat. Terry's right. I just checked. Next year, Real Madrid are allowed to spend the equivalent of £620 million. That's over £100 million more than the top British teams, top English teams. So already there, we're at a disadvantage. We've got a £100 million black hole that we're not allowed to spend, which Real Madrid are allowed to spend. Now, some fans who are not in the Champions League will be like, they don't care, it's irrelevant to them. But
yeah.
We need to be competing with these. Have you seen the way Real Madrid are moving, by the way? They're building a galactical team.
Of course. And this is the thing. This makes sense. So the draft is what makes the NBA and other leagues more competitive. Football is dominated by the same teams. I understand why it exists. So please don't confuse I have a lack of understanding of why it exists. But I believe this. If you're an NBA team and your owner runs you brilliantly, builds a great squad, and you win, you become successful, that shouldn't, for me, in my opinion, that shouldn't then, that essentially hinders you in terms of the rebuild of that team, because the lesser teams get the better younger generation coming through. I don't like that. This is the weirdest comment, though. So, Terry, you are a communist. Now, what I'm asking for is the opposite of that, my friend. I'm saying if a team is successful and it grows its revenues off the back of it, it should be able to spend that revenue on continuing to make its team the most successful. The same as business. I know there are, to a degree, there are competition laws, but if I'm successful at running my YouTube channel and it keeps growing, I can pay to have the best guests available to keep it growing. It shouldn't be, Terry. Imagine this is how YouTube runs. You know, Don Robbie, your YouTube channel is the best and it's doing so well. YouTube's now going to block you from making certain types of content, or you can't have any of the new young talent coming through to appear on your show to let the smaller channels catch up. That's essentially what it is, and I don't believe in that type of behavior. And this year says, Terry, you're backwards, mate. Thank you. You can't give the best players to the best teams. I didn't say you should give the players to the best teams. No one's going to say, City, you won the league. There's the new Messi. But they should be able to spend the money they generate through their success on continuing to grow their squad to try and stay at the top. Equally, revenues will continue to grow. Where's all this additional money going to go? It's going to sit in the club. Who's going to get it?
That's what I've been saying.
Where's it going to go?
This is why I've been against like hard spending caps and player caps, right? Because yes, it's crazy how these players get paid £500,000 a week.
Read this here. It's a good thing for people that want dividends. City won't do this, but trust me, the Glazers, maybe the Cronkies, definitely Chelsea's owners, the dividends they're going to start taking out of these clubs as the money grows and they can't spend it. These owners, this is what some of these owners will want it for. And even some of the smaller clubs, some of your smaller clubs, as by the way, the TV deals increase because of the top 6, top 7, top 8 teams. The teams nearer the middle, as their revenues grow, they're not going to start spending that much more. Some of them will. Some of them, though, will just go, you know what? We can take 80 million out in dividends here. Yeah. It's not good. I think the owners,
Terry, that don't want to spend money will be creaming themselves this morning, lads. Yeah? Because now they've got an excuse, and this is why people need to wake up and look inwards towards their own football clubs. Yeah? FSG are billionaires. The Glazers are billionaires. There's no reason these guys shouldn't be putting their hand in the pocket and spending money on these football clubs. Yeah, they're all billionaires, mate. But you don't want to look at your own owners. You just want to blame everyone else. And like I say, these rules now will give these owners an excuse, because when fans turn around and say, why are you not putting money into the club and buying players? They'll go, oh, well, sorry, we're too close to the cap.
Well, the thing is, but even then, they won't be able to pump. What's the point? So Man United's owners now have a perfect excuse to not pump any money in. We can only spend £89 million more. So then pumping £100 million in becomes irrelevant because we can't spend it. So this is the thing. It will probably help Arsenal and Liverpool and Spurs in the short term, because suddenly City can't keep spending more money. Man United can't keep spending more money. You guys can increase your spending a little bit, and it's more of an even playing field then. You know, you've caught but then when you get to a certain limit and then the European clubs are outspending you, for me, this sounds like short-term thinking with long-term problems for teams, depending on how good you get. And I like the idea of you being capped to spending 85% of your turnover, because that way you're rewarding growth of any team of any size, but you're still limiting how much people can spend. But yeah, listen, for me, I'm not, something about this concerns me, not short-term, but medium to long-term. There's going to be a lot of people not involved directly in football, as in players and managers, that are going to be losing, that they're going to be taking a lot of money out of the game here. By the way, it isn't going to go down to the grassroots. You know, I wouldn't even mind if they said we're going to do it. But, you know, everyone who's had a season ticket for more than a decade now gets to go to football for free. We're going to put on free travel up and down the country for away fans. If they did something like that with it, I could stomach it more. But there's going to be fat cats making more money out of this. And they're going to do it under the guise of fairness. And actually, they're going to be doing it I'm not a fan at all. But we'll see what happens at the AGM regarding that. This here from Guna Carla says, I've been back and forth on this subject. But for 70 to 80 million, I'd take a risk on Rashford if Arsenal went out and also bought a proper striker. You don't like it? I know Dan don't like that, do you?
Dear, mate. If it was the option of signing Rashford and headbutting a javelin I'll take the javelin all day long, mate. I'll tell you that now. I cannot stand this player. He is the most overhyped, over spoken about player with mentality that belongs in the Conference League, mate. And people want to talk about Mikel Arteta getting hold of him and making him into a player. I don't want any more players like that, man. I need ready-made players that are going to walk into the side and that are going to be doing a business. And then with mentality like his, that's what we were trying to clear off out of this club. But people were telling me, like Aubameyangs and Guendouzi's and players like that. People were like, nah, get rid of them, Ozils. I don't want to bring more players like that into the club, man. Nah, overpriced, overhyped. And yeah, leave him there, man. Go send him to PSG or some other club that will have him. I don't want him.
I get your view on Rashford. My take, I don't want him going to you either. My take is this: Rashford's going to leave and cook. Rashford is going to leave, and wherever he goes, as long as he doesn't go to another. If he joins Chelsea, maybe not. They're in a bit of trouble. But if he joins a club that's well run at the moment, good atmosphere, good culture, Rashford will thrive, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. La Liga already has a spending cap. Yes, but is the spending cap the same as our spending cap?
No,
so this,
Real Madrid, and also this is what I said before, James. I don't know if you was in the stream. Real Madrid, yeah, I've got an extra £100 million to spend next year than the top English teams. So straight away we're at a disadvantage, mate. Straight away we're at a disadvantage,
and we're at a disadvantage anyway because they're Real Madrid, right? And the prestige of that club makes it hard anyway. Plus the extra money, and then over the course of the next 5, 6, 7 years, that'll be an extra 100 million, then 120 million, then 150 million, then maybe an extra 200 million, and then before you know it, you're going to have this is what will happen, and there might be a Gooner somewhere or a Liverpool fan. I like this. It will slow City down, and then you've got this player at Liverpool who's on 250 grand a week, and you love him, but Real Madrid can come in and go, there's 600 grand a week, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Then it's going to bite you in the backside. But there we go. Speaking of teams and problems and everything else, Chelsea have come out and denied it via Matt Law, but it's so funny the way Chelsea fans treat Matt Law. Because 1 minute he's a liar and a scumbag, the next minute he's speaking the gospel truth. But it's been reported that visit last week to England from Rúben Amorim had nothing to do really with West Ham. They didn't pay for the flight. It's come out from some Portuguese journalists and some very credible Portuguese journalists that he was actually over to see Chelsea. That Pochettino will probably leave at the end of the season. What do you guys make of that?
Go on,
LB.
Oh,
yeah, sure.
all right. I'll take it.
You take it. Go on.
Yeah, wild, man. This is an insane situation. You know what I mean? He's been linked with everyone at the moment. This guy, surprised he's not been linked with a City job. You know what I mean? He's getting linked with every single team around. I don't know what his agent's doing, but listen, my thoughts on Poch. I think the guy's a fraud. I do not rate him as a manager whatsoever. Having said that, got his team to one final and a semi-final, and actually, if they manage to finish maybe in the top 7, that's maybe considered like the bare minimum. Now, I think it's the bare minimum. Chelsea, with the players and the money that they've spent, should be, for me, challenging for top 4. I don't buy the notion that they've got no good players at all. I think that some of them are overhyped. But will they get rid of Pochettino in the summer? I mean, would I get rid of Pochettino for Amorim? I mean, maybe. Maybe I would, because I don't rate Pochettino in the slightest, lads. Yeah, and I've had this debate with so many people. I just don't, you actually look at his record. His record's poor. I say this, might be controversial. I think he underperformed at Spurs, which is kind of crazy. People say, what? No way. You actually look at the team he had at Spurs. Look at the team they had on paper. What did he win? He won nothing. Well, nothing. And don't talk to me about he got into the final. I don't care. What did he actually win? Nothing. He had a very, very good team, an unreal team. And he didn't win even a Carabao Cup. Didn't do very well when he was at PSG. And let's be honest, this year has failed to really get to grips with this Chelsea side. However, even though I have my personal feelings towards him, if he manages to maybe finish in the top 7, maybe it's worth giving him another year. You know what I mean? But listen, if this is true, because obviously this is just a rumor at the moment, isn't it, Terry? It's not been confirmed by anyone.
Well, I mean, in fairness, this is the thing. Matt Law's come out pretty quickly and turned it down. There's actually a community note now on Pedro's Twitter, and they're saying the user is doing engagement farming by creating fake scenarios and presenting them as fact. I find that an interesting community note. It then goes on to state some from different sources that there's different information, but this guy's not really tweeting any differently to I've seen a lot of the international journalists tweet.
I'd say.
So and Pedro, listen, I don't know Pedro personally. I mean, they say he's engagement farming. He's not even blue ticked, so he doesn't pay for it, which means he makes no money out of it. There's no article he's linking it into, so I don't quite get where that community note is kind of coming from. But I get what they're saying. He's making it sound like facts, but isn't that what most transfer journalists do when they tweet about transfers? They make stuff sound like it's facts. But
I mean, he's obviously got the information from somewhere, hasn't he? He's not just, well, he might have made it out of thin air, but again, to community note him, yeah, surely you have to have some evidence that he's lying. And Matt Law coming out saying it's not true is, for me, that isn't the gospel. Like you said, like that's just his opinion. So why is he not getting community notes?
Well, these community notes are really going to help fans that love their club's PR, because what will happen is the club will brief certain media outlets. This is true. This isn't true. Twitter is then going to turn around and community note posts, but we all know that it doesn't work that way. I remember when the Portuguese press broke the news, including Pedro, that Liverpool were interested in Darwin Núñez. The English press for 2 or 3 days played it down. So theoretically, they would have all got community noted saying this is engagement farming, creating a fake scenario and presenting it as facts. Just for 2 days later, the official bid to go in and for the here we goes to start. And I think that the one thing I would say is this: I'm not backing Pedro's word 100% because I don't have the information personally. But this isn't the first time that Almiron has been has been linked to Chelsea. It's very common for teams to start talking to new managers early, but to publicly say that we back our guy. That's why I think the instant rejection of this story is a little bit, in the way they've done it, I feel it's a little bit sort of harsh, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not saying I believe it 100%, but Pochettino's neck is definitely on the line. It was very widely reported just a few days ago by all the Chelsea sources that his job isn't secure anymore. So Chelsea then meeting with potential new managers. Why would that be such a mad take? In my opinion, I don't know.
Also, I'll just put out before Dan comes in. Someone's paid for it. Someone's arranged for him to have flown to London, mate. Do you get me? So unless West Ham come out and say, yeah, sorry, lads, it was us. It wasn't Chelsea. Lay off Chelsea, it was us, which they've not done yet. Then the discussion is there to be had. Unless you've got the receipts of who paid for this flight, then we will have the conversation. And like you say, at the end of the day, if Pochettino is at risk of being sacked, then it's very reasonable and it's very possible that it was them.
And this is exactly it. Mo here gets this right. Matt Law and Ben Jacobs I know very well personally, met with him in person a number of times, both said Graham Potter was being backed and will not be sacked. 24 hours later, Chelsea club announcement. So some journalists that day said that he is on the verge of being sacked. Based on the way these community notes are now being put out, that journalist that was right would have got community noted. That's their credibility. I just feel it's a little bit harsh here. And I say that because I'm someone when I love transfer stories. I love all the rumors that come out. The amount of times I see lesser known journalists get stories right before the big guys. By a week, by 2 weeks, it isn't even always like this is going to happen at this date at this time, but it might just be a sort of. I remember when what's his name, Dean Jones, was on my show, and I said any interesting rumors that might come up in the next few days, weeks. He went, keep an eye out for like Lukaku and Chelsea. He could be returning. The comments laughed at him. We put the clip out on Twitter. Everyone went mad. 2.5 weeks later, the bid went in. And it's one of those things where it was just a rumor we heard through speaking to somebody. To shut these things down as engagement farming, I think it's crazy. It's crazy to do that, in my opinion. But sorry, over to you, Dan.
Listen, it's Chelsea, innit? They're a mess. It's an absolute embarrassment. It really is. If this is true, then it just adds on to nobody having a clue what's going on at Chelsea. They don't know how to run a football club. They've got no understanding of what's happening. That team, in my opinion, people overhype and think, "What? Oh my God, that team should be much higher." Where it should be, really, isn't it? They're fighting for European places with some of the likes of the teams that are around them. I look at that team, I don't think it's any better than that. That's my honest opinion of it, right? I agree with LB. I think Poch is overrated. I never thought he was amazing. I thought he was good at what he did at Spurs, but didn't win anything. But if Chelsea are going to replace Poch with this Amorim guy, I don't really know that he's won much in football either, right? So I don't look at that and go, "Oh, Chelsea are sorted now. They are safe. They are tip top now. They'll be going for the title now. That's for sure." Because as far as I'm concerned, Chelsea, all the money they've spent, they should be going up there with Man City, right? It's a disgrace that they're not. They are an absolute shambles, and it's a mess. And I'm here for it, and I hope it stays.
The standards are on the floor, though, aren't they? Like,
oh, it's embarrassing.
You know what's crazy though is like how clubs who used to be ruthless, yeah, like United and like Chelsea more so now because like it's more new. How some of their fans can just have so much success under a ruthless regime, and then almost overnight just become soft and like change. Like they spent £1 billion, and it's just like, what's going on here?
Do you know what I find that strangest about some Chelsea fans at the moment is how the way they talk about their team, it's as though they're not going through this. They will banter other clubs, which is fair. Right. You can banter any other team at any other point. I get it. But when it comes to their own club, it's like they're living in cloud cuckoo land. The way they talk about the majority of their players.
They do two things,
Terry. On the edge of being brilliant. It's kind of weird to me.
They do two things. They'll throw it back at you and go, "But he did this against you," or "But you didn't beat us." Don't worry about us. We're talking about you, right? We're not talking about Arsenal or United or Wigan or Everton or Wrexham. We're talking about Chelsea. That's what we're doing. They'll either do that one. That's the first thing they'll do. Or they'll sit there and they'll try to convince you these players ain't actually that bad. And these players are really good. And they'll start throwing the stats at you and they'll start telling you look at this amount of one-on-ones and this amount of interceptions and this. I do not give a shit about that. You are crap. Let's just have it right. You are a poor footballing side with a poor manager this season. And if you get 7th or you get 6th, well done. But I'm used to seeing Chelsea competing. When people tell me Nicholas Jackson is not a bad footballer, I'm used to Diego Costa and Drogba and Zola and people like that. When people in midfield say that Enzo is a good player, I'm used to Essien and Lampard. And if you want to put the standards now to, we want Enzo to be brilliant, then you go for that. Yeah. But for me, I think Chelsea are mudded and I'm here for it. And I hope it lasts forever, man. That's what I'm saying. The fan base now are absolutely in the gutter in terms of their standards. And they're sticking up for this, some of them. Some of them are actually sticking up for this. Now, I know quite a lot of our Chelsea fans that are absolutely done with it. Johnny Minerals, Goonie, Eunice, all these guys that are like, I'm done with this. Why are we not writing off the pitch? We've got some Chelsea fans that are going, yeah, but actually the problem is, what do you mean the problem is? You're a mess. Just accept it. This is not how to run a football club. It's the worst case study in history of how to run a football club, and they can't see it. It's hilarious to me.
And I think for me, I kind of look at these things from the sort of perspective of like, Don's right about a lot of things about Poch. Poch has made a lot of mistakes. I think he's next should be on the line. I agree with him. Barring his criticism of Gallagher and probably Sterling, there might be one other player on Chilwell. He's far too overprotective of these players, and he's not looking at that bigger picture. And I'll be very disingenuous on I don't quite know his take on the owners in terms of him going in on them. You then get others who will rip the owners and ignore everybody else. You'll get some that then just go after the players and completely back Poch. And I look at it, and it's just a case of, at some point, though, you're all backing one element of this when there's problems everywhere. And I went through this with Man United fans where I would say that just sacking the manager alone doesn't fix us. And by the way, I wouldn't be advocating for the end of Ten Hag if we weren't making all these changes behind the scenes. But I would talk about, but you're right, we need a squad overhaul. But we need new football decision makers. We need new scouts. We need a new management team. It's everything. So much at Chelsea is broken. It really, really is. And I just find it interesting. I think they're still very, very early on the denial curve. They're still in the denial phase of that curve where they're just not willing to accept the problems that they have. And listen, they might get a better manager next year. There's talks this summer that they're going to sign lots of players again and really sort of get rid of this under-25s policy and improve the squad. And if they do, they could get better and get better quickly. But they can't keep operating in the way in which they are. So much needs to change. It really, really does. There's an interesting comment here that says, Terry, can you ask LB to sing the Bakary Sagna chant for the audience?
What? Why does he want me to sing that for?
Don't know.
How does
He's-
it
he's
go?
obs-
I don't even know how it goes, LB. Go on, how's it go?
I'm not singing that, man. I ain't singing that.
Daps also said, did Terry really just say he loves transfer stories? No shit, Sherlock. Yeah, I love them. But just like Never a Foul, I swear like your three of your biggest 4 videos are all on transfer stories, my man. Just like your channel. But there we go. Hope you're well, Daps, bro. Hope you're well.
Pick up that.
Make sure you're all hitting the like button for us, people. Get that done right now. Let's get this up to 1,000 likes. That would be amazing. Yes, over 3,000 people watching. So get that smashed for us right now. This here says thoughts on Jorginho's new contract. Dan, I'll go to you first on that one.
Yeah, interesting. I'm kind of here for it, man. I can't lie. This was a signing that deflated quite a few Arsenal fans, including myself. And I think at the time it was because we were linked with Caicedo. Now we all can see how that's been handled at Chelsea, and it hasn't been a good signing so far. But I do rate the player, and I think he would have been at the time more of an exciting signing in January than Jorginho. But when you look at it, that January transfer window of Kivior, Jorginho, and Trossard worked out all right in the end because we were linked with Mudryk and Caicedo. And we ended up getting Trossard and Jorginho. And Jorginho's done a very good job at Arsenal. He hasn't taken us to a next level. He hasn't allowed us to be an elite side that goes and wins everything yet. But I look at what he's done in terms of experience. You hear good things around the dressing room. He's been there and done it. He's won stuff. And I think for me, he's one of the players that can come in and do a very good job when Thomas Partey or Declan Rice aren't able to do that. So if he's going to be given a 1-year contract extension, there's nothing I've seen from his game that looks like he's in a decline as a footballer. I've not looked at him thinking, wow, this guy can hardly kick a ball anymore. So for me, I don't really think this is a bad move. And we're losing El Neni, obviously. I mean, the guy's hardly kicked a ball. His contract's up. We're not going to be extending him. So we can't lose all of our midfielders. And I think midfield is going to be an area that Arsenal are going to be looked at massively this season because with just Declan Rice there for the future, Partey in his 30s, Jorginho in his 30s, we definitely need another body in there. We can't get rid of all of them and then go and then replace another 3 midfielders in the summer. So we've got to be very clever about how we do this. And for me, mate, if Thomas Partey is going to stay fit, you keep him. If he isn't, you've got a question to make. So Jorginho is the one that has been able to stay fit this summer. This season. So for him to get another extension in the summer, I think probably makes sense, to be fair. And I think he's quite underappreciated as a footballer at times because he can have really good games, particularly again in some of the big games as well.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move, man. Smart move. Like, experienced pro can come in, do a job, last 15 minutes. You know what I mean? He's your Kovacic in it. You know what I mean? Like, different position. Obviously, as he plays further forward than Jorginho. But like, you need these players around the dressing room, man. You know what I mean? Like I said, yeah. I thought it was poor that you let go of Xhaka, and I know he wanted to leave, but you could have convinced him to stay, in my view. You need these players around the dressing room. You got to have the experience, man. It's not just about the Declan Rices, the Odegaards, the Sakas, the Fodens, the Kevin De Bruynes. It's about the other guys, you know what I mean? Because and actually, some manager said this recently on an interview. I can't remember who it was, but he said the exact same thing. He said it's about the guys who maybe don't start every game, maybe don't start the big games all the time, but can come on the last 15 minutes and not let the standards drop. They can maybe play some of the games which are less important, but you still need to win and not let the standards drop. And that's Jorginho, man. So it's a smart move. It's a smart move. You can't let him go.
What is proved as well is I was so against this love obsession that Arsenal and Chelsea have had over the years of swapping players and giving each other players. And we've bought so many crap ones off of them, Willian, Luiz, even Gallas. We gave him Ashley Cole and we got Gallas. I mean, come on.
I still remember him sitting on the halfway line.
Yeah, he sat on the halfway line and cried. That's more for how famous he. Then he went to Spurs. Not for me. So then you look at that. You look at Czech as well. We have one good year out of him. That was it. And when we got Jorginho, and then of course Kai Havertz, everyone just laughing, howling, going, "Oh my God, they're doing it again." Actually, they've kind of worked out. You can't say that Jorginho and Havertz have been flops. You can't say that either of them have been absolutely mugged by Chelsea this time. So fair play, man. Fair play.
Chelsea have made both those deals now. Again, hindsight's lucrative, and you have 2020 vision with it. Jorginho, I was gutted when you guys got him. I love a midfield player like him. Reminds me very much of Michael Carrick. In the right system with the right personnel around him, players like him can thrive, and I think he's done very well this season at Arsenal. Thomas Partey, look, I think you've looked really good in the midfield with Partey the last couple of games, but that man's body is made of biscuits, and it's one of those things. On ability, you can back him, but on availability, you need to look beyond him. You can't let too much experience walk out the door, because the expectation now for Arsenal is to challenge at the very least, if not try and win the Premier League next year. So continuity is going to be key. So I think it's very sensible to give him that new deal. And while he's still playing at a high level, give him that 2-year extension. Maybe in 12 months' time, you look at the squad and you don't need him anymore. But then at least you could, you sell him off to Saudi for 20 odd million pound and get a little bit of cash in. I think it works out on both ends, really. On Kai Havertz, we had a debate on the Top 6 show last night. I wanted to bring this to you both. Because Staffy and a guy called Will that came on, a Madrid fan from the States, nice guy, really nice guy actually, was saying that although he's had a good season, you wouldn't call Kai Havertz a flop. Brilliant North London derby game as well, which we'll get onto a little bit later. But they were simply stating, because you bought him, but because you still need to buy midfielders and buy an attacker this year, he was still a waste of money because he hasn't filled those holes. What do you make of that? I'll go to LB first on this one, with people still saying that Kai Havertz was a waste of money for Arsenal.
Okay, so was it a waste of money? No, because he's not flopped. If he had flopped, it would have been a waste of money, but he's not. He's on the whole, he's had some bad games. He probably had plenty of bad games, as I'm sure Dan will probably say, but he's done a lot better than everyone thought he was going to do. Let's be honest. He's done really good. So I wouldn't say that it was a waste of money. Would I have signed, even with hindsight, knowing what he's done, would I still have signed him? And this is a good question for Arsenal fans as well in the chat. Would you still have signed him for 65 million quid, or would you go for someone else? Now, it's funny actually, because earlier on in the season, I'm sure we had this conversation, and I said, well, you could have got Maddison and like a Kovacic, 2 players for the same price. And then you've got your Maddison, but Maddison's fallen off a cliff, man. Do you know what I'm saying? So like at the start of the season when Maddison was cooking and everyone was like, wow, Maddison signing of the season. Who's sustained it longer?
Who's doing it in a title race?
Exactly. So for me, it's one of those, like, it's not a waste of money. Do I think they could have spent that money more wisely? Potentially. But then, like, at the end of the day, like, the proof's in the pudding, man. The proof's in the pudding. Like, he's doing the job that Arsenal want him to do. He improves the squad size. And then people will say, well, he's a flop because Arsenal fans still want a striker. It's called building a squad, mate. It's called building a squad. It's about having options. It's about you just want to have Havertz as your only striker. Because clearly Jesus isn't trusted anymore. Yeah. Because y'all realise that he's not a striker, which I did tell everyone at the time when you bought him. Yeah, you should try him on the right wing. When Saka's injured or needs a rest, try him there. That's his best position. Right? But you need options, bro. So then people say, well, he's a flop then, isn't he? Because, you're going to buy a striker and replace him. No. Again, one game you might want to play a Tony or an Osimhen, whoever they get. You know what I mean? Running behind the lines. Another one, you might want an extra midfielder. You tell Kai to play false 9. Do you get me? It's just like, for me, it's just one of them. Like, I wouldn't put it down as like a mad good transfer. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say one of the signings of the season. But equally, I'm not going to say it's a bad signing. It's just a decent signing. It was probably slightly overpriced. Yeah. He probably would have been worth 50 mil, 45. But in this day and age, what's next? What's the 15 mil? If they go on to win the league, which is still possible, then, I don't think any Arsenal fans will be worried about that extra 15 mil that he probably overpaid. Oh, it's my genuine opinion. I love to cook Arsenal,
I agree. The issue isn't Kai Havertz. The issue is that Gabriel Jesus has fallen off the edge of the cliff this year, and the likes of Fabio Vieira haven't gone up a level. If Fabio Vieira and Jesus and what's his name, Smith Rowe, were all performing at a top level, you guys, with Kai Havertz's addition, you wouldn't be looking at strikers and midfielders this forthcoming summer that play their roles. You're only looking at them because the players behind Kai Havertz are not up to standard. So yeah, I think it's people not being able to say, just unequivocally saying, I was wrong about that. I think that's all it really
absolutely
boiled down to, is being able to say I was wrong. And in the YouTube space, people still labor under this illusion that by saying you're wrong, it's going to ruin your career. Half of you don't have careers yet, right? You don't have careers in this. But even if you do, your career isn't ruined by getting an opinion wrong. Trust me, you'll lose more people if you're not being honest than being wrong. I'm telling you that now.
Yeah, absolutely. And me and Turkish, I mean, both have to hold their L on this one. We both raised our eyebrows. We weren't the only ones, I'll tell you that. But we were one of the only two that have come out and gone, "Phew, do you know what? Fair play." And do you know what? Mikel Arteta is the one that deserves the credit for this. I'm sorry, he does, because he was the one who he was brave enough to sign him when everyone told him it was a crazy signing, when everyone said it was ridiculous money, including myself. And one of my friends runs a charity, Gooners versus Cancer. And I think they'll be remember this actually. He was on a channel with myself and Tom when we did a charity bet for it. And he said, I bet that Havertz will get more GA than James Maddison. And I said, soon as it's for a good charity, I'll whack money on it. I think James Maddison will get more. And he absolutely destroyed him in the first half of the season. And I thought, I'm devastated. I wanted to lose this bet because obviously that means Kai Havertz is scoring. Second half of the start of the season, Maddison has completely dipped in form. And now
On that, James Maddison, sorry to interrupt you, in his last 13 games has created 2 goals and scored just 1. He's only scored 4 goals all season. And it wasn't just Kai Havertz. I know there was a lot of you could have got Maddison instead of Kai Havertz.
Yeah, could have.
There were people at the start of the season saying Maddison, he's on par with Bellingham, he's on par with Odegaard. Oh my God, Man United fans, oh my God, I'd take him over Bruno tomorrow. No, I wouldn't. He looks good. He had a few good months at the beginning of the season in a new system where nobody was used to playing Tottenham at that point, and he was thriving in it. As soon as people have worked out how to play against Tottenham, he is an individual has absolutely died a death. And I think now we have the answers as to why most of the top clubs didn't go in for him. He looks good, but he's very ineffective a lot of the time. Where
I really like him.
Kai Havertz is the other way. Kai Havertz looks awful most of the time because he's not good on the eye, but he's effective. And this is the argument. It doesn't work for every player, but I would take an ugly looking player who's effective over a stylish looking player who doesn't deliver every single day of the week. If it becomes 1-for-1, I'd do it. And yeah, James Maddison and it's the whole Spurs team for large parts of that game on Sunday stunk the house out, really, especially individually. I don't know how you felt about watching it, Dan, but it really wasn't a good showing from them in the large part.
No, not at all. And Maddison was another player. He was poor, I thought, if I'm honest with you, really poor. It's a player I like. I've got to say, I do like him a lot, and I would have taken him. I would have 100%. And his GA versus Odegaard in the last few years, he has done him completely. And that was at Leicester. So I thought, this player's going to be good. And I called out Odegaard about 2 years ago and said, look, man, I love him, but he's got to start scoring goals. And now he's doing it. And he's absolutely, he's been phenomenal for the last 18 months. So Odegaard, in my opinion, it's been ridiculously good. And I look at it and I think Arteta deserves credit. And, there's a few of us that got that completely wrong. The Havertz signing, we thought he should have got Maddison. We thought there was other players out there. And listen, that's why we're talking about it on here and we're not the manager. Do you know what I'm saying? He's got it bang on, to be honest. And Kai Havertz has been a good signing for Arsenal, 100%. I thought he was phenomenal at the North London derby. And I thought he was going to be a flop. For the first half of the season playing in midfield, where Arteta thought he was going to be good, he weren't. And fair play to him, man. He switched it up. And Mikel Arteta said, you know what, I'm going to put him up top. So for me now, Kai Havertz looks to be the number 9 at Arsenal right now, the one that everybody wants ahead of Jesus, like Albia says, who I still don't think is a proper number 9. Yeah, we do need another striker, absolutely, but you got to have a squad because if this is now where you stay, which still hasn't potentially been good enough to beat Man City, we're praying that Man City drop points so we can win this league. So it might still not be enough. So you have to build again, haven't you? You've got to go again. So this he's a bad signing because you still need to buy players. Yeah, we don't have to upgrade on Havertz, though. We need to upgrade on Fabi Vieira and Smith Rowe and Nelson and Nketiah, the guys that should be a part of our squad but ain't good enough. That's where you upgrade. You don't upgrade on Havertz and Jesus and Saka and these guys. That's not how it works. That's my opinion. Just quickly as well on the North London derby, we found ourselves 3-0 up and we hadn't even played that well. That's how poor Spurs were. It was a shambles watching them from set pieces. You might as well have given us free penalties. It was just awful. And the goal that Saka scored, as soon as Ben Davies started, I was like, oh, this will be fun. And Saka destroyed him, absolutely destroyed him. So, yeah, we nearly threw it away because we decided to muck around and get cocky. I think Raya, or what he's doing there, but he's given him a lift. And then, obviously, the penalty. It's one of those, isn't it? Declan Rice hasn't done anything malicious there. He's just tried to win the ball, hasn't looked at the man, and he's caught the man.
He did win the ball. He did win the ball.
Yeah. I saw you having a debate the other day. It's quite funny. But listen, I don't feel like that needed to be the ending that it was, because it was our doing. But let's be real, Tottenham were poor, weren't they? I mean, the first 20 minutes, they said they had the best part of the possession on the ball. What did they actually do with it? I mean, they hit the post from Romero, and Kulusevski was dangerous, but didn't really look to do much with it. It looked like a threat going forward with it.
He was the only one that actually looked like he was going to do anything,
a threat, man. And even him, I mean, didn't really come on anything, did it? So I think there's a lot of Tottenham fans that are really upset. I'd be more upset with Ange and their players as opposed to Michael Oliver, who did give them a penalty and who did call their goal a goal. It was rolled off by VAR. I don't know why they're absolutely blaming the ref. Blame yourselves, blame some of your players, and blame your manager for selecting Ben Davies and Højbjerg and Werner.
Certainly that. Do you think, LB, there's an element here, just on James Maddison again, 1 goal in 7 months from him? And I know he had an injury, but this is the funniest comment of the day. I hope Declan Rice gets a month-long injury so Terry can say how bad he is. I know he was out for a month injured, but he's been back for 4 months now, James Maddison. That is long enough for an experienced player to get their groove back, which is just crazy. But LB, do you think Big Ange and his system, teams are sitting back a lot more against it now? They're working out how to nullify it. Do you think it's been sort of found out a little bit, or is this just about him not having a good enough squad?
It's not just about him having a good enough squad. Nah, that's not the only reason, man. It might be part of the reason. There are usually more than just one answer, but yeah, I think maybe teams have worked them out a little bit. Maybe they're just fading. Maybe they were overachieving earlier in the season. Do you know what I mean? Like, you had a lot of Tottenham fans earlier in the season who were saying we're not as good as maybe the table was saying. I remember Hussam calling them imposters, which rattled quite a lot of Spurs fans. But maybe they just were overachieving.
Turns out he was right.
Well, maybe he was right, yeah, because sometimes that can happen. Sometimes you win like 5-6 games in a row, and you look back and say, how did we win that? Like, we were no good. But then eventually, like, things normal themselves out. Usually you can have a freak and someone can do a madness, but usually things normal themselves out over the course of a season. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what's just happening. But, you know, I've not watched a lot of Spurs this season, I can't lie. I was super disappointed with them in the North London derby. I really was. I thought, you know, they started well in terms of like having the ball, pushing Arsenal back, but as soon as they got the ball anywhere near Arsenal's penalty area, there was nothing. Timo Werner has proved to be a failed signing. I actually wasn't against that signing, and I was one of the few people that said,
really,
and bro, the reason I wasn't against it is because it was a loan. But my point was, if he wasn't good, don't keep playing him. It was a loan signing with a £15 million buy option. And I thought, well, it's a loan signing. If he does well, sign a 15 million. What a bargain. If not, then it is what it is. He wasn't good enough. I think actually playing Son as a striker in this particular game was a mistake. I think there would have been much better playing him on the wing, where he can get on the ball and actually do something, because he was isolated. People say he ghosted, which he did, but I think it's mainly because he was isolated up top. I think he should have played left wing and not Werner. Don't get why he played Højbjerg. Davies was an absolute horror show at left back. You know what I mean? Saka put him in the blender for that goal. It was laughable. It really, really was.
So why, LB, are the Spurs fans not looking at that then? Because I don't hear many Spurs fans questioning that. I've heard a couple of the ones that I know that are good lads that have said, yeah, I don't know what was happening there, but a lot of them are looking at the referee. I don't get it.
Look at this here from young Daniel. Spurs fan comes on our show. He says, Terry, this is wrong. We dominated Arsenal. They only made chances off set pieces, and the ref being an idiot. That's how a lot of Spurs fans.
I'll tell you now, yeah, as a City fan who would have loved to agree with you, because, you know, it benefits my club. That goal that you scored that was offside. And the penalty, in my opinion, is one of those. Like, I think we need to have a proper conversation about whether or not accidental fouls or whatever are actual fouls. Because, like, sometimes people say, well, it was accidental. Well, is that a foul then or not? We need to just have that proper conversation, have an open conversation about it. Say, if it's a foul, it's a foul. Are we going to start giving fouls for accidents? Maybe. The guy didn't go down. Like, should he have to go down? No, but we've known this for the last two decades.
What I find interesting is that Bukayo Saka in the Champions League beats Manuel Neuer to a ball, who flicks his leg out trying to win it, And there was a huge debate over where his foot's planted, whether Saka could have got out of the way, yes or no. People are saying that the Spurs one on Kulusevski was more of a penalty. And I'm like, you can argue it's a penalty, but it isn't more a penalty because was it Trossard?
Yeah,
It was
Trossard and Rice.
Trossard made no attempt to win the ball. He was just standing behind him, and it was Kulusevski's leg that clipped it that made him fall over. That's less a penalty than the Saka one, but yet the Saka one got far more attention towards, well, this, yeah, I do agree with you. It was accidental. I've never felt that if two players are running near each other and their legs accidentally clip each other, I've always felt that shouldn't be a foul because I don't understand. There's no foul. You're not trying to win the ball. You're not trying to impede him. It's an accident. You know, if two players go up to win a header and you accidentally clash heads, no one gets done. Even if you're late, you don't get done for accidental clash of heads. So why do you win at your legs? I've never understood that law, to be fair.
This claim that they dominated us, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, lads, but other than Raya passing the ball to Romero so that he could score, what did Raya do to keep the ball out the net much? I didn't see much happening at our goal that Tottenham dominated play.
No,
what did they dominate? I don't really get it.
He had chances, 100%. I think Romero could have had a hat-trick that day. He had chances. But ultimately, when they did get the ball forward, they didn't really create a great deal. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, it was just poor from Spurs. Like, you can blame the ref. Yeah, you can blame whatever. But ultimately, your set-piece defending was absolutely abysmal. And the counter-attacking goal you conceded with Davies, who was shocking. You know, I mean, it's just like you found yourself 3-0 down because you can see 3 poor goals. You need to be looking at that and, like, such poor defending. Like I said, I wanted you to win. I wanted you to win the game. So if there was any chance I could sit here and defend you and, like, Arsenal robbed it, I would. But I generally can't say it. You've been robbed because I just don't think
it's like Romero could have scored. Yeah, Saka could have scored. It's clipped into him. It was saved by Vicario. He didn't score.
Yeah, like, I feel like
we could have scored goals.
I feel like the opening 20 minutes, they Arsenal looked a little nervous. They caught you in possession a few times. They had some good counters. There was those Romero opportunities. Outside of that, they drifted away. And to answer a man like Dan again, young Daniel, we call him, or D Mizzy, as his name is here, they didn't clip each other. Trossard clipped Kulu. Well, no, they didn't. Trossard didn't make any movement of his leg towards Kulusevski. Kulusevski's trailing leg went backwards because he was running. And they clipped each other. There was no intent from either one of them to try and make contact. There was no intent from Trossard to try and win the ball when he got in the way. That, for me, is an accident. Imagine it's the other way around, and as a player runs, his leg come up and he studs someone in the shins. Is that a shin high tackle? Should that be treated like a studs high tackle on the shin? No, it's an accident. You never get in trouble. I don't like it as a rule. Trossard didn't, for Trossard to have clipped him, he'd have to flick out his leg like a trip. Then it would have been a penalty. But yeah, because there was no attempt, I get why it wasn't given.
I understand why they're upset. They've lost the North London derby and it was their cup final. It was their chance to ruin our title and they blew it. I understand why they're upset, but let's just look at the game. Take your Tottenham hat off and your Arsenal hat off. Like, my God, it was basically a goalkeeper passing the ball to their centre-half, who, why the hell he was up there, I don't know, by the way. And then it's a penalty that gets them back into the game. They had to rely on that. They were poor in front of goal, defensively shocking. The manager got it wrong. The team selection was poor. We can keep going if you want. I don't really know what else you want us to say.
Yeah, I mean,
they have to be very good to win the game.
It's true, and Spurs. Look, I think. Look, Spurs have had a very good, a good season. You know, they're still in top 4 contention. They've done better than many people thought they would. Big Ange has done better than people thought they would, but there's a lot of food for thought around how now to go to that next level. And, you know, Basuma started the season well, but has died a death. There was talk about him being better than Rice. He's not. Maddison started well. He has died a death, especially as more teams are sitting back against Spurs now. And this year, I always say this about players that look good in smaller teams. I don't mean Spurs, I mean Leicester, is they often don't play against deep-sitting teams. So they have more space to run into. They have more room to perform in. You suddenly put them in a team where they've suddenly got two midfielders and centre-backs to maneuver themselves against. It's a different level of football player. I look at so many individuals that are just not performing. That isn't necessarily on Ange. I look at his high line and I just think people are working out where it's vulnerable, how to break it down. That's why you've conceded more goals than Manchester United this season. And we're having an abysmal year. There's so much for Spurs fans, I think, have got to Get away from we're better than this team. We've got a better starting 11 than them. We'll be up doing this next year. They need to focus on their team and their squad getting better. Because right now they're a good team, Tottenham, but there's no guarantees of top four again next year. If Villa improve again, no one knows what Man United and Chelsea will be next year. There could be improvements. Newcastle again. There's a lot of work for Chelsea Spurs to do. But I think some of their fans live on cloud cuckoo land.
100%.
I mean, it was only about 4 weeks ago. There were Spurs fans that come on our show, like Will Stewart, saying if you look at the underlying metrics of Arsenal and Spurs, my belief is that we will finish above Arsenal in the league this season. 20-point gap. Now, I know stats can tell you some of the story, but your eye test has got to tell you some of the story as well. And I don't understand what some Spurs fans are looking at. Spurs fans have been good this year. Some Spurs have been good this year. But again, the way they talk about their team, you would think they were in title contention with City. It's weird to me.
Listen, they're obsessed. They're obsessed with things around them. They need to be obsessed with their club. That's what needs to happen. They need to stop trying to force all these players into everyone's combined 11s. They need to stop worrying about that. Who gets on the right hand side here? Oh, I tell you what, if you play this formation, we'll get an extra one and please Spurs players in our combined 11. Who gives a damn? Go and win some trophies. Yeah, stop trying to force people into your combined 11s. Go and get used to your team. Start doing that because that's what Tottenham get bantered about. So go and start winning trophies because it's an embarrassment now.
You've only won one trophy with this manager. What are you talking about?
Don't talk to me about that. Don't talk to me about history and trophies, LB. Don't talk to me about that because that's what I'm talking about. This club have not won a Premier League since the 60s, bro. Right? So let's just stop that. Yeah, or it wasn't even called the Premier League. That's how long ago it was. Right? So let's go there. Now what we'll do is we'll start talking about how they celebrate trying to win the game to ruin our title, and now it's like, oh, we lost. Throw the toys out of the pram. I'll tell you what we'll do. I hope it's 4 or 5-0 against Man City now. Concentrate on yourself, man. You're supposed to be trying to get in the top 4, which is the equivalent of a trophy for you guys. So go do that. Because the last time Spurs were in a title, it was against Leicester. And what did we do? We beat Leicester home and away that year. We didn't roll over for them, so that Leicester could win the league. We beat them twice. So all this crud just gets ridiculous, in my opinion. They're a team with an awful mentality. That's what they are.
Spurs fans are proving something that Lee Gunner used to say. I don't think he's correct across every team in the country, but I believe in Spurs' instance, when we just look at it for a Spurs lens, there's a lot of Spurs fans with this attitude of they would rather miss out on Champions League football and Arsenal not win the league. Where if you are an ambitious club, Arsenal winning the league is going to hurt, but it should also motivate you. But if you're in the Champions League next year, if you've got the ambition, that gives you the chance. That gives you the chance and the opportunity of winning one of the biggest trophies in the world. Why would you not want to be in there? Why would you? That for me is crazy. I said earlier on in the season, we're not good enough to get there. I wanted to make it. Me and Staffy had a big debate about this. And my view was, you never know how good or bad you're going to be next year. And it's a knockout competition. If Big Ange gets back this summer and you can maintain your opening 10 to 15 games of the season for the majority of the campaign, who knows what you could do in a knockout competition? You don't know. But the fact that Spurs fans would willingly, and I've heard a rumor that there are fans that have written like letters to the club saying, please throw the game. It's only on Twitter. It's not been verified. But the fact that that's your mentality, that gets into your dressing room. That seeps into your dressing room that it's okay to lose. And the fans play a big part in that. It's crazy that you should not be. I know some people will say, but Terry, you want Arsenal to beat Man United so they win the league. If we were competing for something that could either win us a trophy this year or lead to a big trophy next year, I wouldn't want that. We're not fighting for anything. So there is nothing it's not going to impact our season, that Arsenal game. It could massively impact Tottenham's. And the fact they're willing to roll over is a madness to me.
D Mizzy sent an email. sent an email. I've sent an email. Is that real? Is that for real?
He sent an email.
Is that Dan guy that you just said? I've sent an. Oh my god.
What's he sent an email about?
He sent an email to ask the club to lose to Man City.
Mizzy. He's my best watcher, this guy. Big up D Mizzy. Someone gift the membership. Someone gift the membership to this guy, man. Why is this guy not a member? Someone gift him a membership.
What will probably happen? Because it's so Spursy, they'll probably bloody draw or beat Man City. That's what'll happen. That's what'll be Spursy about.
Wow.
It. Even LB's worried. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The other thing I would say is by the time we play them, the top 4 race might be over because Villa play twice.
It will be, mate. It will be, mate.
So if Aston Villa beat Brighton, which
That's
they
true.
probably
If,
will,
if it's over by then, but it's going to be over by then because that's what they're all saying. I've seen the fan cams. I think it was man like tapping toes was like basically over anyway. Like you're saying that you're putting that. I said it to Gooners that your team stood up when you were all like after the Villa defeat. Oh, it's all over now. Oh, season's done. I just looked at you all and thought, weak. You mean weak? Fight to the end. Go die on that like. I can't understand it. I can't understand it. Like, go out fighting. Come on now. Some super chats here. First one says, Man City will get a guard of honor in 2 weeks. Potentially. Yeah, Spurs fans will join in the celebrations as well. You guys are right about the penalty decision. Besides, it was reviewed by VAR. The ref would have been told to go to the monitor. If they thought the ref was wrong. Thank you, Femi. Spurs have won one game in the Premier League at the Emirates since 2006. We've beaten them twice at the Tottenham Stadium in 4 games. Levels.
Big up, Peter. Big up, Peter.
Fun facts, even at the end of Ange's stint at Celtic, they were the worst team in the Scottish League for defending set pieces. That's crazy stat.
Wow.
Well,
wow.
And this is what and once your weaknesses get exposed in the Prem, every team starts doing it, and then it's hard to recover. Arsenal tactically gave up possession to Spurs. They didn't dominate possession because Arsenal couldn't play against them. They're not dominated.
We didn't need to dominate possession. We're 3-0 up without even hardly touching the ball.
Yeah.
It's just so easy. It's just crap they were.
And I would also just add, even if Spurs did force Arsenal back, and it was Spurs' press and Spurs' domination of the ball which forced Arsenal back. And what? Yeah, I mean, like you didn't create it. Spurs didn't create enough with the ball from open play to punish Arsenal. You know what I mean? And Arsenal, I genuinely, and I'm going to say this, yeah, it's a compliment to Arsenal. I didn't think Arsenal were good at all in that first half. They find themselves 3-0. Exactly. It's not a dig, man. It's not. That's if you find yourself 3-0 up when you're not playing well in a derby, bro, you're doing something right, man. Yeah. So like that's one of the biggest compliments you can give, really.
Yeah, when you watch the game back, and I watched the extended highlights yesterday, just before I did the top 6 show. It's like Jesus, like Spurs. How it got to 3-2 in the end, flattered Spurs with the sort of the trajectory of the game. But have you seen this clip? I wanted to play it to you boys. Take a listen to this.
And I don't care. I don't care what anyone says. Look at Arsenal, yeah, compared to Man City, the team that they're fighting for the title. Arsenal are a bloody glorified Bolton, relying on set pieces and playing 10 men behind the ball for the whole game. They should be ashamed of themselves. Going for the title, playing against a team like Tottenham that are so open at the back, playing 11 men behind the ball. Come on, guys. You guys are not fit to win the title this season, and that showed tonight.
You're not basically saying like you're playing. He says like you're playing a team like Tottenham, like he's saying Tottenham are rubbish, and saying you should be ashamed of yourself. And you get this with modern day fans. You should be ashamed of yourself, Dan, for not playing in a way that would have helped your opponents. You should be ashamed of that.
I'm gutted, mate. I'm gutted we didn't try and play a little bit better into their hands. Oh, dear. Cry more. We get a lot of this, don't we? This is what happens. Like, we get it with our fan base as well. Like, we'll cry when we lose games. But this has been a little bit of a meltdown from Spurs, bless them. But this meant so much to them. I had so many of them saying, we are going to ruin your season. This is going to be the weekend where you go crying. And they found themselves crying again. Yeah, it's what Spurs do, man. It's the history of the Tottenham, as they say.
This here says, LB, would you have Kai Havertz at City? If not Kovacic or Kai Havertz, who would you take?
I'd take Kovacic because, as most people will agree, I don't think Havertz can play in midfield. I don't think he's very good in midfield, and we don't need Havertz to replace Haaland in it. So it's just because of positions.
Jack Attack says our club is muddy from top to bottom. Terry, I think he's talking about Chelsea. Owners need to change the model or get out. Poch is definitely not the guy, and so many of the players are not Chelsea standard. Big up the panel for the show.
Man. Big up to finally a Chelsea fan who's refreshing to actually look at it and say how it is. Fair play to him, man.
I agree with him. He's a good compliment for Rice's profile. As I think that's about Jorginho. I agree. agree on Terry's assessment of the current United players. Do you think Bruno could transition into a deep line
playmaker?
Deep line play? No, I don't think he's that. He plays off the striker. That's where he's best. He doesn't have the subtlety on the ball or the physicality to play deeper, in my opinion. But he's very good at what he does. Arsenal tactically get. Sorry, already done that super chat there. Sorry, Terry, you scoffing when we said Enzo's performance dipped due to playing through injury past 4 months.
Do you know what? They hate you on this Enzo thing, man. They actually obsessed with you and Enzo.
It's not.
No,
they are. See, this is the thing, right? I'm fine. This is what I was pointing out, and it's about energy. It's about energy. So we all know Saka's playing with something, right? Saka's definitely playing through some injury, in my opinion. But the same people I see defending Enzo for playing with a hernia don't have the same energy for hashtag Limp Biscuit, as they call him. So for me, it's a case. So it's a case of I'm just someone I like the same energy. If you're gonna defend Enzo for having an injury, get off Saka's back when he's got an injury. You can't have it both ways, in my personal opinion. Some AFTV crap media, sorry, they're not crap, said 5 years ago they would rather lose the Europa League final just to see Spurs lose a Champions League final.
I have seen these clips.
Yeah, I've seen them, but that was wrong as well, and I called that out back then. Go back and watch the content. I think it's all mad, but it's a madness. And yeah, I've seen those clips going around today. But yeah, I'd never want to lose a final. Like Man United were in the Europa League final and Liverpool were in the Champions League final at the same time. I wouldn't want to lose my final so they didn't win theirs. I want to win the trophy. Never would want that. Remember the reaction from Hamza after the City draw? He said Arsenal are shameful. Yeah, Hamza and V, two of our City fans that come on all our City match reactions. Every time they batter a team by 3 or 4 goals, they come on and say, I want to congratulate so-and-so today for playing so openly and so bravely against us. It's so shameless. It's so shameless.
But I would say, though, credit to Forest. Forest played attacking football, and they probably should have won the game. So it's not
good, man.
If they could finish their dinner, the title race would be wide open.
Exactly.
A game that you're both not involved in tonight. What could have been? This could have been the preview of all previews tonight for this game. But a chance for Harry Kane tonight to really, in my opinion, really deliver on his legacy in the game in this big semi-final against Real Madrid. How do you boys see it going?
Go on, LB.
Yeah, I think this game is important for Kane. I really do. It's more important for Kane than it is Bayern Munich, right? It's such a big occasion for him because he's been at Spurs his whole career, not won anything, and obviously Bayern Munich this year not won the league, and he scored the goals. Don't get me wrong, but the elite level strikers score goals and win stuff. And he needs to win stuff. That doesn't mean if he doesn't win anything, he's not going to go down as a good striker. Clearly he is, but you got to respect the great strikers of football when they've done it in the pressure moments to win titles, to win FA Cups, Champions Leagues, World Cups, because that's when the pressure's on, man. And this guy needs to deliver. He's not done it enough for England. He's not won the nation a tournament. He's not scored in. It's not helped us lift a trophy. It's not helped Spurs lift a trophy. And so far, it's not helped Bayern lift a trophy. This is an opportunity tonight. Everyone's going to be watching this game. Well, a lot of people, maybe a lot of Arsenal fans and City fans won't be watching it because they'll be crying. But a lot of people will be watching it, and he needs to deliver. He can't just ghost the game. He can't, he's got to get involved, I think tonight is an interesting night because a lot of people like to speak on Haaland and say, he needs to work on his dropping deep game and this or this. I say not nonsense, just stay in the penalty area. If he's not getting the ball in the box, he needs to drop in. He needs to get on the ball. He needs to show the world that he can deliver in the big games. So for me tonight, I think it's huge, man. I think it's, and you know what? Like, I don't know who I want to win. Like, do we really care? But I think actually for England, it might actually be pretty good if Kane wins something. It's the captain of the England side.
If Bayern Munich win, though, LB, are you gonna get people say, "Our City fans, what happened to Man City? Bayern Munich are rubbish, and they've beaten Real Madrid. How did City not get through?" You might get some of that, mate.
Well, we should have beat Real Madrid. We were the better side, but we obviously went out. But yeah, I
Totally.
think it might be pretty good. Yeah, I'm not going to respond to that. I'm not responding. It might be good. It might be good for England if he does win it, because then he'll actually like, oh my god, this is how it feels to win a trophy. Like his bro's never won a trophy, man, in his career. Like, that's a madness, you know. And I'm not being funny, yeah. But ultimately, like, you've got to win stuff. You got to have that winning feeling, because once you win something, you want more of it. This guy's never won anything, so he needs. I think it could be beneficial for England if he wins it. But I don't know, man. No, I disagree with that in the chat. Goonie Tolpar, yeah, it said Jude Bellingham winning it is better. Why would that be better for England, bro? I don't think it is. Harry Kane's the captain. He's the striker. He's probably going to take all the pens in the big moments. He'll take, you know, I mean, I think it's more beneficial for England if Harry Kane wins it, because he needs to deliver. As for Ballon d'Or, you know what, Jude Bellingham PR is on Mars at the moment. It's gone off the scales. Like, if he has a good game, then he's pretty much nailed on for it. So I'm looking forward to it, but I am going to watch it. I was contemplating not watching it. You know what I mean? I'm being a bit of a sore loser. You know what I mean? But I've built up the courage to say, yeah, I'm going to watch this game and just enjoy it. I don't know, Danny.
Yeah,
are you going to watch it as well?
Yeah, man, I will watch it. It's two proper Champions League sides in it going for it. So you got to watch it. I don't know who's going to win it though. I must say, I think it will be Real Madrid, but I can't guarantee it will be. I think I said whoever wins that, and Man City and Real Madrid will probably win the whole thing. Kind of stand by that. I'd probably like to see Dortmund win it, because they're the kind of underdogs, aren't they? If I could pick one team to win the whole thing, but yeah, I think it'll be Real Madrid tonight. But you never know, man. Harry Kane could turn up finally. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he does. I agree with LB. He has to turn up. And look, he scored 35 league goals in 31 games this season. That already puts him into the top 5 highest goal scorers in a single season in German football history. He's got 3 games left. He needs 6 goals to match Lewandowski's 41. You never know. You know, he could get a couple of hat tricks. You never quite know. End of the season, whatever it may be. He could break German goal scoring records in his first season of being there. He's certainly one of the best ever goal scorers the league's ever seen in a single season. 42 goals in all comps, 7 of those in the Champions League in 10 games, which is a good return. He did similar things at Tottenham. Not as many goals, but similar things at Tottenham. To create a genuine football legacy, and I do stand by this, I can't think of a single person that we look at as a legend. Some of them, and if we just look at attackers in this context, because we're talking Harry Kane, there's a number that have similar goals to him. They all have brilliant seasons or integral seasons when their team has won big and major trophies. I can't think. And the viewers in the comment section, please tell us a striker who's looked at as a footballing legend that's on par with some of the best attackers and strikers in the world ever who have never won a major trophy. I genuinely cannot think of one. And people think I dislike Harry Kane. The opposite. I want Harry Kane to sit in that class of player, because I believe his ability and his outputs warrants it. Someone says Alan Shearer on the penalty. And no, see, Matt Le Tissier wasn't on the level of the world's best ever attackers. Plus, I think he was a midfield player anyway. So from my perspective, I look at it as, and they're not. Someone just say Inzaghi. What, Inzaghi didn't win anything? This is crazy to me. Someone's saying Gary Lineker. Well, Gary Lineker definitely won an FA Cup in his career. And what else did he win? He won an FA Cup. He won the Cup Winners' Cup. He won the Copa del Rey. He didn't win that much, but he did win things. So again, he's got some trophies as an example. And I don't know if Gary Lineker would even go into the list of the top tier strikers. I don't know if he would. But the point I'm making is very, very simple. He absolutely needs to win some major trophies to cement a long-lasting football legacy. He has a Tottenham legacy. But as we've already discussed on the show, that fan base would willingly miss out on the Champions League to stop Arsenal winning a trophy. It's easier to become a legend at Tottenham than it is other clubs. And he needs it. So they're up against a really tough team tonight. But this is where you become a legend. And I think that if he does it, all the Harry Kane lovers out there will understand it suddenly. If he turns up tonight and is brilliant, scores a brace, goes away from home, they grab a 1-0 at the Bernabeu, he gets that winner, they get to that final, he scores the win. He doesn't even need to score in the final then, because in the semis, he's got them there. He's done his bit in terms of his team. He'll be elevated to another level because those pictures of him holding that trophy, the performances tonight and in the second leg, that lives on in football history forever, more so than all the other goals that he scored that have led essentially to nothing. So Harry Kane individually, it's true. And look, his goals were amazing, but all those other goals will mean more if he now starts adding major trophies to it.
I agree. I agree. I'm sure where you said that was pretty funny, but no, I agree. Like ultimately, like what's football about? It's about winning trophies, it's about having silverware.
Facts.
Do you know what I mean? And like no one's sitting here saying he's not a good striker. I said he's one of the greatest. But for me, in terms of out and out finishing, maybe Owen is up there as well. But like recent signs, definitely one of the best English strikers around, and I think he's the record English strikers. That backs that up. But you've got to win. You've got to win stuff. And I'm not being funny here. It'd be pretty embarrassing if he doesn't win anything. Because he left Spurs. The only reason he left Spurs, he obviously loved Spurs. He obviously loved the club. He left Spurs to win silverware. He was only ever going to go to Real Madrid, City, Bayern Munich, or PSG. Why? Because he's not going to leave Spurs to go to another team that's probably not going to win. So they failed everything this year. So if he doesn't win anything this year, that's pretty embarrassing, right? Because he's got a Bayern Munich. And I know Leverkusen have done a madness, but it's still embarrassing. So he's got next year. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll wrestle back the Bundesliga. There's no guarantee of that, but like people will ask questions about like what's going on. Like, is it something that he's doing? I know he scores all the goals, but like he's not.
I think if Harry Kane would have gone, if Harry Kane would have gone Man City, LB, he would have done what Haaland's done.
Yeah. I don't think he would have scored as many goals. I don't think he would have scored as many goals. He wouldn't have scored.
I think he would have still won a treble. I think he would have still won a treble with Harry Kane.
I don't see why not. I don't see why
Yeah,
not. I think he would have still been very successful.
I think he would have killed it. I think he would have killed it. I really do.
Yeah, I think he would have smashed it, but yeah.
Some super chats here. First one says Spurs players getting the loss bonus versus City. City still have 4 games. I think it means games to play. Can one of them hurt City's title hopes?
No, he does actually mean ham in it. Like we got Fulham.
Oh, Fulham, Tottenham. Right, there we go. Yeah. Can they? Yeah. Can they? Yeah, they might do. It seems like the panel was suggesting that only Chelsea fans who rational are those who have a completely negative attitude towards the club. There is no happy medium between Don and CB.
What is there to be positive about my guy? It's such a bad place at the moment. I don't get it. You've got some of the Chelsea fan base that are coming out and saying how it is, and the others are muddied by it, putting their head in the sand and saying, no, it'll all be fine. La, 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 don't care. La, la, la. Listen, you can be balanced and be in between and go, things ain't great at the moment. I hope they improve. That's fine. But just say things aren't great at the moment because they're not. That's not where Chelsea want to be. Unless if it is and you've changed and you want to be fighting for top 7, then go for it. Be my guest.
Yeah, there's not much to be positive about, really. Do you know what I'm saying? That's why probably it comes across as like you have to be negative. Like obviously at the end of the day, you spent £1 billion, yeah, and you might not still have any European competition again next season. Your manager is again, what's this? The 3rd manager that these owners have had. Is he good enough? I don't think he is. Are the players good enough? I don't think a lot of them are, but I don't think so. Some of them have potential clearly. So I think there's a lot to be worried about and a lot to be critical about. Now, maybe Mr. Moore, maybe next year, you'll improve and you'll get back into a top 4 or something. But I just think they did because of the way that they've spent the money, disassembling a Champions League winning team, and then spent £1 billion. The demands on Chelsea Football Club should be extreme. Because they've not took over a team that was fighting relegation, spent $1 billion, and it's not quite. They took apart a Champions League winning team, and spent £1 billion, and turned it into a mid-table side. Because that's effectively what you are. Because you finished mid-table last year, and you're currently around mid-table. So that's what I would say.
I hear you. I hear. Torres at Liverpool. I don't know what that means.
I think he's talking about comparisons to Harry Kane, I think.
Okay. I just looked at a list as well. I'll send you guys the link for the best players who had never won like a club trophy. When you start looking at the names, there's a few players on there I'm not too familiar with, but Matt Letizia is one of the best names on there. Stan Collymore on there. You got players like Clive Allen, Scott Parker's on there, Danny Rose. That just shows you that most of the top players win trophies. When that's the greatest we can name from England that haven't won a club trophy. It's crazy. This Enzo talk is all copium, in my opinion. I don't think he's built for the Premier League. Gets shoved off the ball easily. As for Bukayo Saka, he needs a full summer's rest. He's not going to happen though, brother. He's going to play for my England. That's when I love Saka, when he's in an England kit. Look, boys, I want to thank you both very, very much as ever for coming on and having your say. Viewers, thank you very much for tuning in as well. Please hit the like button before you go and make sure you are subscribing to The Terrace. We're back tonight for the Champions League game match reaction. This show will take you through to it, so make sure you go there now, bookmark it, etc. LB, Dan, always a pleasure, boys, to talk football with you. Everybody else, take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you